Hi everybody. We'll be speaking about health access in emerging countries in my presentation for the International Sibling Society internship project. This is a research based on the Sustainable Development Goal number 3. But before we get into that, I want to talk about what is a paradox of humanity. If I ask a question to everybody, what is more valuable, water or diamonds? The answer seems plain and simple, but if I twisted the question and say what is valued more instead of what is more valuable, water or diamonds? Obviously, diamonds are valued more, but what's more valuable? Water is essential for survival, yet we don't prize it as often. Diamonds are not needed to survive. This metaphor that I talked about is the premise on which my presentation is built on. What should be valued more, money or lives? Money is an artificial concept, it's an abstract concept, it's a human made thing. Lives is the essence of all what we have. Once it is lost, it can never be earned back. Money, we can always be earned again, it can be replaceable, it's renewable. That's the paradox of humanity in my presentation. I'm going to talk about the Sustainable Development Goal number 3, good health and well being. And do we all have access to this good health? Do we still lose lives if the person does not have sufficient money to save his life? And that's what we're going to talk about. And if you look at this sustainable development goal, there are about 17 parameters on which the United Nations measures it, and only one parameter has moved to a successful on track target. And rest most of them are showing marginal or moderate progress. The basic premise being, do we all have universal health coverage? When I talk about universal health coverage, the irony is it is stalling and the poorest are paying the highest amount of price. Why do I say that? Universal health coverage, the goal of ensuring everyone has access to quality health services without financial hardship, remains out of reach for billions, with progress slowing after earlier gains. The UHC Service Coverage Index rose just 3 points between 2015 and 2023 from 68 to 71. In 2023, 4.6 million people lack access to essential health services, and the lack of coverage also comes from a financial cost. Poor, marginalized populations face the greatest barriers to care and highest financial burden. Although some low income countries have made certain fast progress, which we'll talk about in the next few slides, they still experience the largest gap in coverage and financial protection. Closing both these gaps will require a strong investment in primary health care and expanded financial protection and targeted support for vulnerable populations, which is the conclusion of my presentation. Otherwise, at the current pace, only 1 in 4 people worldwide will face health related financial hardship, which we also experienced during the COVID. If we look at the trend of universal health coverage in poor countries, emerging markets have gained some points, but absolute gap versus the world still persists, and absolute gap versus high income, which is dramatically high, which is 25 points, which can be clearly seen. There have been some improvements, like countries like Cambodia, Bangladesh, Indonesia, India, driven by generic expansion, but there are a lot of regresses as well. For example, Peru, Egypt, Algeria, and universal health in about 50 countries, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Tanzania, all sub-Saharan countries, South African countries are very, very less. So all of this have high patented biologic or oncology unavailability products. If we look at the proportion of the population with positive out-of-pocket household expenditure on health exceeding 40% of the household discretionary budget by location, quintile, type of household, we can see that the out-of-pocket spending pushed 2.1 billion people into financial difficulty in 2022, and the percentage of population in 2015 to 26% in 22, but still is an enormous burden. An example could be in India itself, where about 90% of population has a catastrophic spending gradient in the quarter one. Millions of children are still missing out on simple routine vaccinations like a DTP3, which is a standard proxy for vaccine medication access. When children are getting denied healthcare, we have a major problem. Official development assistance for recipient countries, particularly the emerging countries, it's stagnating, and sometimes we can see that it's going lower. The choice for all of us is simple. Can we make a world where a father doesn't have to choose between arranging medicine for one child or getting food for another? A family doesn't have to choose between saving its only breadwinner from a life-threatening condition or moving on in life. Money or life, what do we choose to protect? And that's the essence of our sustainable development goal number three: good health, well-being, and access to it to all of humanity. That's my presentation. The reference is attached. Thank you very much.